that one glorious word represents more than just the geography between the Sabine and the Rio Grande. It represents a unique idea and way of life. A life of rugged individualism, proud self-reliance, gritty toughness, and fierce independence. That is what made Texas, and that is what will save her again. Howdy, folks. Sam Houston here. I want to thank you for tuning into the Feed Bandit podcast. Feed Bandit is the Texas first outdoors brand built by rabid Texans, for rabid Texans, and all those who aim to be one someday. We unapologetically promote the ideals that shape our Texas pride and Texas first patriotism through our love of hunting, the outdoors, and the gear and apparel we create. Texas, above all else, preserve the tradition, protect the legacy. Check us out at feedbandit.com. And to repeat that great rallying cry from a former colleague of mine, liberty or death. Now, enough of my talking. Here are a couple of bandits that love Texas as much as I do. Enjoy.
Well, howdy, friend. Welcome back to the Feed Bandit podcast. And Jimmy back with you. And we're just going to continue down this path on Whitetail Strategies, where we're going through this really interesting book, The Total Deer Hunter Manual by Field and Stream. We're going through each of the 301 essential skills that they talk about in here. And I think I'm going to kind of redub this as a sub-Whitetail Strategies series. We're going to call it maybe like Deer Foundations, something like that. That way... And we'll separate them out in like a playlist sort of situation so that really, if so far at least, there are some good reminders and whatnot for experienced deer hunters. But I tell you what, as we're going through this will be great podcasts to listen to in order for new and young hunters alike. People that are just trying to get into deer hunting. Really good list of skills and things of that nature. So, and I'm trying to keep them in more digestible podcast links. So, so it's not like you're forced to sit down and listen to a 45-minute episode or something like that. So, well, I'm enjoying the way we've done it so far. Hope you are. Give me some feedback. Howdy@feedbandit.com is our email for any kind of comments. Good, bad, ugly, indifferent. We'd love to hear from you. But let's just continue. So this Deer Foundations Whitetail Strategies series here. The deer. The deer haven't changed much, so why another book chapter on behavior and biology? Well, here's why. In the course of just a couple decades, our understanding of deer and how they behave has taken a giant, soaring, jet-propelled leap forward. The whitetail's rise to utter dominance in the hunting culture has spurred interest in and funding for research. More than ever, deer hunters want to understand their quarry. Scientists are happy to oblige. A recent examination by David Hewitt of Texas A&M of scientific literature pertaining to whitetail deer found 631 papers published before 1985 and 834 since. This, plus vastly improved research technology from GPS trackers that can pinpoint a buck on a computer screen to transmitters that can signal researchers the moment a fawn is born, boils down to this. We know a lot more about deer. And the more you know, the better a hunter you'll be. All right. So, in this one, we are starting with skill number 10. Know your deer. So, there are almost 50 subspecies of whitetail, blacktail, and mule deer, ranged from just below the Arctic Circle to the southern tip of South America. And these weigh from a mere 80 pounds to more than 400 pounds. And they eat anything from lichen to cactus. And they have this map here of a breakdown in the United States and Canada of where the deer operate. So you have, let's see here. So you have, of course, mule deer. So you have the California mule deer. You have the desert burro mule deer, the southern mule deer, and the Rocky Mountain mule deer. So it looks like obviously the Rocky Mountain mule deer is the species we have coming in the Panhandle, the Plains, South Plains, down into kind of the west of Fort Worth. I mean, not that far east, I guess, but in the South Plains and such like that. And then the desert mule deer is what's way out in El Paso and kind of that area out there in the far west Texas. Let's see, the blacktail deer, the Colombian blacktail, and the Sitka blacktail, Sitka. Those two dudes are primarily, blacktail, far west coast, Colombian blacktail, that is. And the Sitka blacktail is kind of Alaska, the far west coast of Canada. And of course, you have the traditional whitetail. But did you know there is a Virginia whitetail? That's kind of throughout the South. There's a northern whitetail. That's obviously northeast kind of area. There's a Carmen Mountains George deer or Jorge deer. Where is that? That is, I did not know that. So that's Big Bend area. Then you have a key deer. That was news to me. Probably not to a lot of you, but it was news to me. You have a key deer. You have a Coos deer, of course. You have a Dakota whitetail, a Hilton Head Island whitetail, a Colombian whitetail, a Kansas whitetail, an Avery Island whitetail, a Northwest whitetail, a Florida coastal whitetail, a Florida whitetail. So the difference there is Florida coastal whitetail is more panhandle, northern Florida to the panhandle. And then a Texas whitetail, of course, which is the traditional ones that you and me and all of our Texas buddies primarily shoot here. Well, in addition to the Carmen Mountains Jorge deer, so that one's out, like I said, in the Big Bend area. Very interesting. So know your deer. Skill 11: analyze whitetail anatomy. So we'll go through this. Of course, you can't see it, but I'll describe it. Obviously, you have your antlers. So deer grow a new set of antlers every year, as you know. Velvet is shed in late summer, turning antlers into weapons for the rut. Then you have, of course, the forehead gland. So where bucks deposit scent from this gland on rubs and on limbs, overhanging scrapes. Of course, you have the neck, which enlarges to 3 times its normal size during the rut. You have your interdigital gland, located between the toes. It leaves a scent that seems to be unique to each individual deer as it walks and makes scrapes. We talked a lot about that. A couple months ago, we were talking about the glands and what they do on a previous Whitetail Strategy podcast. You got the preorbital gland. So this is where bucks deposit scent from this gland on rubs and over scrapes. So that is kind of between the eyes, is where that one sits, below the forehead gland. Of course, you have the testicular glands. This is the source of testosterone, that magical elixir that tells a buck it's go time every fall. We have the tarsal glands. All right, so those are on kind of like the knee area, if you will, of the whitetail. So it's the most prominent and funky smelling glands on a deer. Bucks pee all over them to create a mating season musk. Can you imagine if humans had tarsal glands? Then you have the metatarsal gland. So this is the one that's kind of very close to the hoof. And it says, truth is, no one is sure about this one. So the jury's still out on what that one's about. Okay, the 12th skill, take heads and tails. So the easiest way to tell a whitetail from a mule deer from a blacktail, the easiest way to tell a whitetail from a mule deer and a mule deer from a blacktail and vice versa is to look at their heads and tails. Here are the tip-offs. So with a whitetail, the head, the antlers of a typical mature buck consist of 2 main beams from which evenly spaced tines grow upwards. The tail, the top side is brown, fringed in white, and when alarmed, this deer raises its tail to full vertical and exposes the patch of bright white hair underneath, thus the name whitetail. So a mule deer, however, the head, the muley's antlers are bifurcated, which means they fork as they grow. The deer's name comes from its ears, which which are so big that early white settlers compared them to mules. And in the tail, the mule deer's tail is rope-like and black-tipped. It lies against a large white rump patch, making it easy to spot. All right, and then the blacktail, you got with the head. Basically, the blacktail deer's head resembles a mule deer, only with smaller forked tines and typically less sizable rack. The tail of a blacktail, has a white rump patch like a mule's, but smaller, and its tail is, you guessed it, mostly black or blackish. Okay, that is pretty interesting there. Don't think I've ever seen an actual black-tailed deer. Just, so anyone out there hunted a blacktail or have shot one? If so, let us know. Love to hear about it. All right, skill number 13. Now hear this. Remember those hearing tests you took as a kid? Someone would play a sound and you'd raise your hand when you heard it. Well, researchers figured out how to do that with deer. They put deer of various ages in soundproof booths, and then hooked them to little electrodes measuring brainwave activity. Computers measured the frequency and volume of sound it took to get a bump in brainwaves. The conclusion? That the average deer can hear high-frequency sounds better than we can, whereas the human hearing maxes out at about 20,000 hertz, and deer can hear up to 30,000 hertz. But the volume has to be turned up. Also, they're excellent at pinpointing the source of sound, thanks to their maneuverable ears. Other than that, deer actually don't hear much better than you or I. Like us, they hear moderate frequency sounds best, and virtually all the vocalizations they use to communicate with each other are in this range. And they get distracted by background noises in the woods, just like we do. So you want to know how far off a deer can hear your calls, your rattling, or the sound of your foot crackling a stick? Have a buddy make those noises at a set distance away. If you can hear it, so can a buck. If you can't, he probably can't either. All right, well, that's good to know. Give you a heads up on kind of the noise you're making, All right, skill number 14, get a grip on deer senses. After my rookie deer season, I was certain that bucks could see through hillsides, hear what I was thinking, and smell what I had for lunch from 100 yards away. We all tend to romanticize the quarry. After all, giving them supernatural powers makes our successes more heroic and our failures more excusable. But let's get real here. If deer were really that good, they'd all die of old age, and we couldn't sell you this book. The truth is, deer senses are good, but not great. Only one, smell, is borderline otherworldly. The others, meh. Meh. Maybe realizing your role in hunting failure is no fun, but ignoring it can hamper your success. Yes, deer are sharp. They are wary, and you should be careful. But don't let an exaggerated idea of their defenses keep you from making the aggressive moves sometimes needed to fill your tag. All right, so worry about smell, of course. Worry about your scent, of course, if you're out in the open, and you're not in a really high raised, elevated blind. I know a lot of people still worry about that in a raised blind. I guess sometimes it's an issue. Hasn't ever really been that big of an issue for me, especially in a tall tree, like tall blind. But if you're exposed, of course, think about what you smell like. All right. How about skill number 15? Know that the nose knows. We'll continue this on this smell topic. A deer's sense of smell is so spectacular that it's tough to quantify. But here's one yardstick. Researchers estimate that we have about 5 million olfactory receptors, which are neurons responsible for the detection of odor in our noses. Bloodhounds, the legendary sniffers of dogdom, are thought to have 200 million. Well, deer are estimated to have 297 million. Woo! More than a bloodhound. In other words, a deer can smell 60 times better than you can, or humans, of course. In the right conditions, a downwind deer can smell you from more than 300 yards away. If you can smell where you've been, it can smell where you've been long after you leave. Not only can deer detect minute traces of odor, they can decipher many different scents simultaneously. They can be snuffling acorns, whiffing nearby water, catching the scent of a coyote in the woodlot across the field, and pinpointing the spot where you walked by an hour ago, all at the same time. A multi-million-dollar industry exists with the sole purpose of defeating a deer's ability to smell a hunter, with little, if any, tangible success. In the end, a deer cannot see through hillsides or hear your thoughts, but it might be able to smell what you had for lunch. Above all, be careful of a deer's nose. All right. Well, that's interesting. All right, well, let's stop there for this one because we're going to move on to sight on the next episode of this Whitetail Strategies series, the Deer Foundations mini-series. So that's kind of it about the smells, but I think it got its point across. They smell 60 times better than us. So remember, at least with hearing, it's about the same of ours, but it's really the smell is the big thing. So if you're not going to be in a really nice enclosed blind, kind of airtight, I guess you could say, and the wind's at your back, and you think the deer will be in front of you, then you better really watch out about what direction that wind's coming, and what you smell like. All right, with that, let's take a break right here, and we will continue this on the next full-length episode of the Feed Bandit podcast. Just want to say thank you so much for listening and joining me on this exploration of all the essential deer skills that you need. Man, a lot of good reminders here, and I'm learning some good little skills here, little things, little nuggets to take with me out into the field, and I hope you are too. So, again, thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you on the next one, and remember, support your local feed store.
Well, I hope the Bandits gave you an interesting episode that either entertained or educated you. Or better yet, both. Hell, I told them this podcasting thing looks harder to do than defeating Santa Ana. So if you would, please help them out by sharing it with all your like-minded friends to help the Bandits get the word out. And don't forget to check us out at feedbandit.com and grab some gear and apparel to support the cause of Texas. Remember, Texas, above all else, preserve the tradition, protect the legacy. Finally, as I said some time ago on the eve of the great battle, and I vigorously repeat here again, be men, be free men, that your children may bless their father's name. Well, fellow bandit, until next time.